Everybody, Leo here from Life's Rolling On. Today, a new project on the R1300 BMW GS Adventure. We're going to install a SAAD custom upholstered seat cover. This is probably my most challenging one yet, but hope it turns out easy like the graphics did on today's episode. Come along. Not 100% sure what we're going to need, but I am using a pneumatic stapler. I know I'm going to need a Sharpie to mark the center of the seat and the foam. I'm using a staple remover. I've got specific 22 gauge 1/4 inch, which is 6mm crown staples. I'm going to use a flatbed screwdriver or flat blade screwdriver, needle nose pliers. I've got my heat gun in case I need to work on the material for the seat. Off with the key, we're going to remove the seat heater on the bottom. Going to use a tiny flat blade to barely lift up. If you've never taken off a BMW seat clip, you basically depress this here, and what I'm going to basically do is gently lift up the tab and then push it out. So like always, we're going to take some pictures of how it's done from the factory, because a lot of times you can learn a lot, especially if you forget. And I'll give you an example. What I'm looking for is the pattern of where they put these staples in. I just went and put both my seat covers for the passenger and the pillion seat or the rider seat outside. Reason being is it's about an 80-degree day. I put them in the back of my bed liner in my truck, which is black, just getting some natural heat to them. That will help make the seat more pliable. But now we're gonna work on getting all these staples pulled out, which is gonna take some time. So let's get to it. This should probably take me 20-30 minutes to get these pulled out. We will start on this. In the meantime, I'm letting the sun and the natural heat work on the pliability of the leather and the suede for the other seat cover. That will help get this put on, so when we're trying to make sure these angles don't have any ripples. And as you can see, the stock seat, it's taut. So this is also telling me what, even though this material is different, what I should and should not expect. So we're using this little staple tool. If you don't have this, you can use a flat blade screwdriver, either way, but we'll get to it. And you can kind of see what I'm doing here. And you might do 5 or 6 and then pull them out. I'm gonna pull these in my tray that I use for my heat gun. And the reason I bring that point up is when you're working on upholstery or obviously anything to do with a seat, I don't want anything sharp near the upholstery. So this isn't a difficult job, it's just tedious is all. So we'll do a few together, then I'll fast forwards so we can get to the part of putting it on. So let's talk real quick about why we're changing this. So a lot of people have opinions on different seats, and I did buy the BMW so we can ride long distances, but I don't have a problem with my stock seat. I feel like it's pretty comfortable. Now that being said, I'm 6 foot tall, have a 32-inch inseam. Overall height fits me well. Maybe that's a different case for others, but this is where my vanity gets me in trouble, because I just don't like the way those big, goofy, long distance seats look. The one thing is, I'm not a fan of this material, and it's very much like a rubber material. So we'll talk about, when we get done, the ordering experience and why I chose, if I'm saying it properly, SAAD, long A. They're in Greece, they're in Athens, Greece. So originally I was looking at Louis as a seat cover company. And however, Louis did have a 1250 seat, not a 1300 yet. So the next step was, on social media, I noticed a lot of the custom GSs that are being made are mainly in France. And those workshops there did a great job. But some of those workshops had their own upholsterers within their shop. And then others just were standalone upholstery shops. And I've had now a couple experiences getting parts from France. And although they weren't bad, they were very costly because of tariff, customs, freight forwarders. And I thought having a custom seat made with a language barrier and all the obstacles to get it to me was probably more than, not that I wouldn't have, but I wanted to look at other options. And I came across SAAD because I was familiar with them in the watercraft market for jet skis and Sea-Doos, and they built a really nice seat cover, but then I found out they also do it for motorcycles. And then I saw they had some really nice ones for the 1300 BMW. So I reached out to them, and they had some styles online, and then ended up making a semi-custom seat cover that matches the look that we're looking for. And I'm trying to do my best so you can see these staples being removed, but some of these angles aren't going to be great. So anyways, nonetheless, I was able to get the seat built quickly. And then I realized I was going to have to be my own upholsterer, which I was fine with. And then that led to getting them ordered. One takeaway, no, when we put this back on, is you start front to back and then mid-side to mid-side, and you stretch as you work forward. There is almost no space between each space, or if I'm not in millimeters, but I would say probably a 1/4 inch at most between each staple. So that'll give you a good idea of the frequency of your staples, as well as if you notice this particular, almost has a lip. The other ones are outside warming, but they as well have that lip. So I don't know if they're made the same, but what's really important is if you notice the seam is inside. It is not outside or on the rail. So that's going to be important for us, because I have learned that causes some discomfort as well as causes problems for the actual seat cover to lay down properly. So if you're interested in doing this, my suggestion is give it a try. So in the description box, I'm going to leave all the lessons I've learned, and I'm going to leave the things that I've read about. So the staples, the type of stapler, why were you going to use a pneumatic gun? I rented from our hardware store a certain air compressor. I have a big air compressor. I need one that can flow 90 CFM currently the whole time. So the type of compressor that you use is similar to one you would use for finish nails, or if you were doing finished woodwork for baseboards. I don't own that. It was just easy for a pretty low amount of money to rent it for the day. I'm going to leave all that in there, so if you decide you want to try this, you know where to go. And luckily the upholsterer sent me instructions, but there's a lot of information on the internet about how to upholster and how to. This is really no different than a motorcycle dirt bike seat, and there's hundreds of those. It's all the tips and tricks, and the best one being that I learned just not too long ago is these seats on the bottom have this particular cutout. And one thing you don't want to do, although this is a very rigid seat pan, is push when you're stretching. And the reason being is it will cause the tautness of the material to be too tight. So one of the tricks I saw was a helmet donut. I use this to work on my helmet. I'll put all the links, you put that on, and then when you're doing the seat, when you're actually stapling it, you rest it on this, and that's why we have that. So again, all those will be, no need to write it down or worry about it. I'll put everything in the description box for you, so when you're ready to go, you've got it. As well as where I got this, and the links into Amazon if you want to buy any of the things. There was a lot of specifics on which type of upholstery staples to use, and crowned and size, and that's because we're shooting into a plastic. So we need some horsepower with the CFM air on the compressor, but we also need these crown staples to roll over so they don't pinch you or get stuck in the seat. All right, so another thing is we don't want to, this is a heated seat, so there's an element in here we're going to basically take it off, peel it off. And I missed one. I'm going to make some reference marks just so I know the middle. I'll show you a little trick. Do you see right here? I put that red mark. Now I'm gonna show you upside down. You can see there is a V cut in the foam. That's kind of a universal mark for upholstery. And there is one in the back. All I'm gonna do is enhance it. And I'll show you. And there's the V in the bottom. And the reason we're doing that is at a site, I can keep what's lined up. I don't think so much I need to worry about left to right. And I'll just make, what I'm doing is doing off the honeycomb. I'll just make a reference grid just in case. We're not measuring that, so don't let me make it more complicated. All right. Next up, let me get the seat covers from outside. If they're warm, and we'll get them in here, and if not, we can use our heat gun on real low. Next steps, we'll dive into this. I'm absolutely amazed at the pliability of this from leaving outside for even just a half an hour in the sun. So you can see the seats marked. What we're gonna do is flip this over. And keep in mind, I am not, this isn't like I've done one recently and I'm the expert. We're doing this together today, so there is no proper camera angle because I don't know what I'm doing. So we're gonna do this and figure it out. If you remember, we talked about this lip. This is all that on the other one that actually came over. And one of the things I am doing is it did say to start with the front or back first. So the only problem is I might start with the rear right here and put a couple staples in, and then we might have to pull them back out and keep going, you know, and see where we land. But let's see. We definitely have more in the front, so that's good to know. There is a trick about flipping a seat cover inside out that helps, and you know what? That helped as well. The other thing I'm doing is making sure on seams and whatnot that I'm not pinching foam. So this is coming along nicely. All I'm doing is getting things worked out. So we've said this on another episode about putting graphics on. It's like old school carpentry rules. Measure twice, cut once. This is kind of the same thing. Fit twice or 10 times, staple once. So first thing first, we want to make sure we're even, and we're not. So our seat's crooked right here, meaning I got to take more of it to this side than this side. So we're gonna pull more of it to this side. So I'm trying to just take some visual cues. I'm almost right on. So this is my center. One of the things we end up doing is this is how you want to move seat covers. You want to move from the center out. The only one I'm worried about is the rear seat because it's got electric, the electric switch, and I'm not quite sure how we're going to do that, but hey, we're going to get it figured out. So see the seam here? I'm going to try to roll this forward, and that's how we're going to do that. We don't want that seam exposed. I want that seam on the bottom side. I have plenty of material back here to wrap. So we're going to roll this seam over so we don't see it. So I'm going to roll this with one hand. All right, why is nothing coming out? Check to make sure I didn't shoot it through. Oh, I know why. So right here it says load here with points up. And guess who didn't read the instructions? All right, let's try that. All right, so I got 2 in. Let me roll that. So I got that. Now I'm gonna set the tension on the back. And then we kind of had talked about this earlier, but we always are, we're working our seat both back and down. And because we're gonna set this tension, we're gonna work this backwards. And I didn't let up my tension. I want to see where these were. And I want to make sure I'm firing into my apron. So the heat from your hands, the seat is designed to work with the heat from your hands. And what I'm doing is rolling this over. And we'll do one over here. So if you watch, that's what we're trying to achieve, and we're gonna do that each way. Now I'm gonna try to work this way. You see there's still material, and don't be afraid, as I understand, if you have to pull staples out and recorrect, that's what we're doing. That's why we're checking constantly. Now we're gonna do it on this side. Now there is such a thing as too taut. So I'm a huge believer in anything you're doing with your hands, you can feel. And if you see, we're keeping our staples straight. I'm not firing this thing off in 40 different directions, and I'm matching. For every one I go one side, I do one to the other. But so far, I gotta say, we are looking fantastic. But do you see that this, we went this way now. And obviously when I come this way, I'll get it here. But now we're gonna start going back. And what I'm gonna do is get it right here, because that's where the material changes. Now do you see I have a seat stop or a bumper? Tuck that in. We will probably potentially trim that, but we're gonna make sure we fire it on both sides. Let the heat from your hands help warm that material up. We're not just pulling on this. That's not, I mean, you can do that, but what we're trying to do is pull from the stitch. We're not trying to pull the stitch out. All right, so we can see in the back here, we're really gonna have to work this material. I'm gonna actually warm this one up. Go in single setting. I really want my suede portion of it to be nice and taut. What I'm doing is making sure I had a staple that crossed over. I'm trying to make sure that lays completely flat. There. All right, so far, I think this front piece is perfect. Now what I'm gonna do is bring this back. And you can see we didn't, I gotta still do this side over here, so we are very much looking good. This trick that I saw online, and I wanna give credit due, but every good motorcycle seat installer talked about rolling over, and I found it on a dirt bike channel, but it really does. It really does, honestly. The heat of your hand helps make that transition the way it's supposed to happen. And then we're gonna stay in the channels here, and then it's already sewn properly, but we're gonna work our way from inside out. What I'm gonna use is the gun to get in where I need it. I gotta move that back right there. So what I just did there was I moved up, I pulled put some tension on it, and then I held it down with the nail gun. Last but not least, we're gonna make sure our ears are tight up here. Overall, I'm thrilled with how this looks. I'm going to finish this front up along the apron. I wish I knew if I was supposed to cut some of this, but I think so. All right, one and done. Now, time for the other one. Rear seat off, rear seat heater. In the event you have to take this seat off, you access the heater side. Do you see how one side's round and one side's flat? The clip is on the flat side. What I did learn is this is flat. They're folded over in the front. This is screwed on. And then this is the switch that I'm scared of. So I don't know how this works, although I think I just got excited because I see 2 bolts and maybe this is a bolt in. So we'll get on that. I got my trusty Icon Torx kit out. First up, we're gonna remove this plate. I'm assuming it's a T25 like most everything on this bike. So when I ordered this seat cover, I had the option of having the hole cut for the heater switch, which they recommended against. And I was nervous about it, concerned, but they reassured me it's easier to get the seat cover stretched into place. And then at that point you would trim it around it and then put the piece in, but we'll see. So there's 2 on the face and then appears to be 2 on the top. The front was a 25, the top is a 20, I believe. I don't want to insinuate that the first part of the seat came out amazing because I don't want it to be arrogant, but I will tell you the nervousness that I had going into this is far less than I have it right now. And it's way less now that I've seen there's some evidence that this bolts in and out. So that's how that works. 4 fasteners, slides in. And then most importantly, this isn't stapled to death, so I am gonna take a quick picture of this just so I can see where the seams are. All right, we took a quick picture. We can see where the seams are. Looks pretty simple. That's always easier said than done. Now we will look at removing these 2 here. I'm expecting, obviously this is a switch, and there'll be wiring involved. So, all right, so can I remove that? And it appears the answer to some degree is yes, but it's definitely not super easy to pull out. As I lied, it's very easy. I just had to not be afraid to pull it out. So it's very similar harness as all the rest of the BMW harnesses. Lift up. I love I tell you that with confidence and watching me snap this, and it's probably some ridiculous amount of money to replace. All right, it is the same. I was just being very cautious, and you can see this is why I felt it not wanting to come out. Do you see the seam line stays straight? I think that stops this from wandering, you know. So this is the boring part now where I pull the staples out, so stick around. If not, I'll catch you here in a minute. What we learned is we typically fold off so we don't pull the glue. And then I will gently take that out. We are done. All right, we're gonna mark our ventil again. And then we're gonna take a reference line and mark. And that just keeps me honest so I know where I'm going back in at. All sharp things far away. Nice, warm, cozy pillion cover. We're gonna try getting the front on first. You can see reference marks here. I'm gonna try to tuck the ear in, being first step on each side. If you remember from the first one, this, I don't want to say hard, but this is where it all like starts. It's, you know, making sure we have our reference lined up. And we're gonna roll this so I can roll it on. This is where patience pays off, because if it was loose and fit super easy, we'd have more challenges getting it tight, putting it on. But I have plenty of room. Obviously you can see how loose it is here. We gotta just walk it on. We're close on all sides. And I think that's where we gotta get into our rolling out. I want to make sure our overall shape is still good, and it is. The other thing is make sure your foam's not rolling over, because I've seen that before. You know, it's only as good as what you put under it. Quick question. Somebody, and I read, had asked in a different forum whether you put your seat cover over the stock seat cover or take it off like we did. And that is completely indicative of the company making the seat cover for you. So for instance, Louis Moto, they make a seat cover that you can go over the stock one, but in the event the stock one's torn or damaged, you don't want to. And I think that all depends on how much extra material is made. So make sure you pay attention to that in that process. Heat gun. Just like we did in the last one. We're using the heat from the gun in our hand, and this is what's making it tough. This is what we need to move down. I know we're at our seat shape right now, and I just need to get it to the point of being taut so I can staple it. We're almost there as we sit. Yeah, so you can see with just that little bit of effort, we're there. I got 3 to start. You see our reference marks, so we're almost spot on. I'm gonna pull that to be spot on. I need this right side a little bit more. I know better, I'm gonna run the sides first. We will set the middle. We'll set the middle on this side now. This is the measure twice, cut or staple once option, because this is the side that is got the switch. Let's get this back side, roll it over. All right, that's good there. As much as I want to fire that off, I'm going to do the same side excuse me, same plane on the other side. And actually use my head of my stapler to tuck that in. Actually, I think I'm gonna staple it all and then cut the switch so it's in place. So my switch is gonna go from here down. So I need to make sure this is all as tight as I can make it. All right, so we have to fold that over. And we've got these ears here. Making sure my seam's straight. All right, let's test fit our piece. We will put our 20s back in. Pretty cool. This was the one I was worried about the most, and it actually wasn't nearly as bad, which is kind of like a life scenario. You get worked up about something before the something ever happens, and then it's like, oh yeah, it wasn't bad at all. The last of the Mohican step, that what I'm going to do is try to find the center. I'm actually going to cut using my Olfa, very sharp. I'm lining this up for a reference. Definitely nothing below there. We're going to put one cut in the middle there. I want to let enough room that I can let it fold in. All right. Now I gotta cut like the opening, and then we're gonna cut it here. So what you did, what you saw, is I have just enough cut that I can now kind of work my fingers in there to see what's first move is gonna be is getting this plug out. And I'm gonna just basically trim as I need to do that. So let's see, we're gonna put our round side. You should hear the click. All right. I need to work this in there. Cut this like a star pattern without cutting my wires. We're almost there. I gotta be able to work the one side in. One side's in. Both sides are in. Holy moly, I didn't think that was gonna ever happen, but we did it. And I can see the bolt holes. And we did it. Let's get rid of the OLFA before I cut the seat open. Man, I'm so excited that we did that. We actually got it. All right, 2 is done. SAAD. I'm gonna get this back on the bike. We'll look at it together. We'll evaluate how this went. I really enjoyed doing this today. This wasn't that hard. On the 1 to 5 scale, this was probably a 3. Be patient, take your time, think through your next steps. I know you can do it if you want to do that. I had a great time doing this. Again, to me, it's cathartic to get in the garage and work on my motorcycle, especially when you get something done that you might have been nervous to do. But most importantly, thanks for being here with me today. This was far more fun with you, following along. This bike build has been coming along great. The Ultimate Sport Tourer bike is just becoming more and more close to my overall goal every day. Thank you so much for watching. I greatly appreciate you being here today. Until next time, don't forget, life's going on and go ride motorcycles.